My name is John Crandall, American Public University, Environmental Management, Spring 2020, and today we will be discussing the primary elements of the Florida Bay Seagrass Environmental Management Plan for 2020. I'd like to introduce the major stakeholder groups in this project. As you can see, we have local, state, and federal representatives. Locally, we're dealing with Florida's Water and Land Legacy, which has over 100 members. State, we've got the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, the Florida Water Management District of the South, and the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. And federally, we have the USGS and the National Park Service. So we'd like to say thank you to those stakeholders. Our vision statement is to revitalize the natural condition of the Florida Bay, allowing for flora and fauna to flourish while encouraging the recovery of endangered and threatened species. We have 5 overarching goals that we'd like to accomplish in this management plan. First and foremost is increasing the flow of fresh water into the Florida Bay. We find that this is probably going to be the most beneficial. We also want to decrease the flow of excessive nutrients and toxins that contribute to algae blooms and seagrass die-offs that are coming from residential and commercial areas. Furthermore, we want to support the ecological monitoring that's already going in the Bay Area, as well as advocate the increased vegetation protective measures in the Bay to protect the seagrasses. And all this we think we can really push by developing and presenting educational workshops to educate the public in what they can do or what harm is being done, because many may not even realize what is happening. Going over each of the overarching goals is the flow of fresh water into the Florida Bay. By doing this, we're going to reduce the hypersalinity that's in the bay, which is going to encourage wildlife vitality, both in seagrasses and marine life. Much of this is going to be helped out by the Everglades National Park Restoration Project and the encouragement of Taylor Slough bringing in more of that fresh water. As you can see in the graphs, that on a good historic average year, we had fresh water coming from the Everglades and rainfall and evaporation, but it created a healthy average. But as you see, with current conditions, not enough fresh water is coming in, which causes the hypersalinity and the die-offs, which actually creates a feedback system that makes things worse. By decreasing the flow of excessive nutrients and toxins, much of that is the fertilizer and herbicide that's running off from our communities and agricultural in the local area. We understand that we want to take care of the pests and insects and fertilize our yards, but the excessive and widespread use is adding too much nitrogen and phosphorus to the water, which causes the algae blooms, which kills off the seagrass and some of the wildlife, and it creates a cycle that gets worse. We've also got to worry about the commercial waste that is coming off of commercial properties, whether it's intentional or unintentional. And once we have the seagrass die-offs, now we get a soil destabilization, which increases wave flow and erosion in the area, which once again exacerbates the issue. By supporting the ecological monitoring of the Bay, we will be helping the National Park Service in their water quality analysis, sulfides, and salinity, but we can help them by adding nitrogen and phosphorus monitoring stations, which they have identified as something that they also need to do. We can also add visitor experience surveys, whether it's paper surveys or online surveys, for them to express what's going on and what they see when they see it, to help us identify some of these issues. By advocating an increase in vegetation protective measures, we will help support the the seagrass's survivability. One of the major issues is boating. When they power through these seagrasses, they cut paths through them, which causes severe damage in these areas. So we'd like to limit those activities and educate them on, reducing their speeds around the seagrass beds. Either avoid it, trim your props so you're not hitting the grass, or just get out and push it on low areas. And this is to help avoid running aground or damaging the grasses. We also want to, educate and promote an infrastructure of docks that allow for light penetration into the water. Educational workshops will hopefully educate the public about general boating safety and benefits of having the seagrass beds and not damaging them. One of the hazards of washing those residential chemicals and fertilizer down stormwater systems, it doesn't all go back to a wastewater plant. Most of it will go right back into the ocean or river, which will add up and create issues. And that's not just the chemicals, but also sedimentation. We got to worry about these hazards of excessive fertilizers and herbicides from agricultural. We understand that there is a huge need for crops to go to the public and groceries, but at the same time, those chemicals that aren't absorbed by the soil will wash off and run off back into the bay or into the ocean. One of the ways of limiting this is by creating buffer zones between agricultural land and waterways. So I would like to thank everybody for allowing me to provide this presentation. Here are my resources, and I look forward to talking to you again. Thank you.